Good afternoon, class. I thought I'd jump on here and give you some information about the second component to the research paper. By now, you should have already clearly turned in your proposal. I think I got about 4 more left to grade. I should have those graded, hopefully, if not by the end of today, definitely by Sunday. So you should have hopefully a grade and some feedback based on your proposal. So the next step, which we're going to look at here momentarily, involves the annotated bib, which, like I said, previous in a lecture video, that we sort of go through or go from the easiest assignment probably in the semester, being the proposal, to one that's a little bit more, I would say it's not any more difficult. I mean, I guess it can be difficult if you allow it to be, but it is sort of a challenge. It can be a challenge because there's a certain way that you really need to style it and set it up. And if you take a look on the assignment sheet that we're fixing to look at, there is a Model A example, just like there was a Model A example for the proposal. The annotated bibs deal with your 6 scholarly sources that you should have or be actively in search of. And really, because you needed to have 3 already for the proposal, this should just be, you need to go out and get the other 3, make sure that you read all 6, because there are 3 questions. They're different than the proposal questions, because this deals with the annotated bib, but it will help you get your annotated paragraph that you're going to need for each one of your 6 sources. So there's really 2 parts to this particular assignment. There's the citation that comes before every annotated paragraph, and then there's the paragraph. So you can easily use a works cited generator, and I can show you where you can find that. And that, I mean, the citation part really should be an easy way to get a good grade, just, if you get all 6 of those right. It's the annotated paragraphs that usually give students some trouble because they don't answer the 3 questions the right way or correctly, or there's issues with the spelling and grammar, because again, I'm still checking spelling and grammar. It's an English class. But don't get confused. The annotated bib is not your research paper, right? This is just evaluating your 6 sources. These are the 6 sources that you're telling me you're guaranteed that you're going to use in the 3rd stage of this, which would be drafting and then finalizing the actual research paper. So these 6 sources are the 6 best that you have found. And as you read your sources, you might want to go ahead and, take note of the quotations that you are planning on using in the research paper, stuff that you might want to summarize or paraphrase, and you want to go ahead and get that sort of cited the correct way. So you're not necessarily having to waste a lot of time with, integrating quotations in your actual research paper. Also, the parenthetical citation aspect that MLA wants you to do. We'll talk a little bit more about this because really your last quiz is going to be dealing with MLA documentation, integrating quotes, paraphrasing, summarizing, block quotes, the works cited page, all of that. And that will be coming up later, if not toward the end of April, definitely toward the end of the semester. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will start talking a little bit about this annotated bib. So you should be able to see Blackboard screen. A couple things that you might want to kind of keep in mind when it comes to finding sources as it relates to 4 of your scholarly sources. You really need to have 2 scholarly books and 2 scholarly journal articles. These could be e-journals or e-books as well. Need to come from some sort of a library, whether it's a public library that's close to you, whether it's the college library, that's close to you, or if you're a dual enrollment student, you could possibly use your high school library, depending on how well equipped they are with materials. So a couple things that you can start off with first, if you're still trying to look for, excuse me, sources from the library, is that you can do this library service slideshow. If you did the extra credit, knowing with the pretest and the post-test, this might just be a review. There's a whole reason why we kind of did the pretest and the post-test, and it wasn't just, always the extra credit in mind. It was to sort of get you thinking about how to go about finding research materials. With SA2, the rhetorical analysis, you might have, talked to some librarians, you might have used some databases from Galileo, that type stuff, books. So really this slideshow is just should be just a review of what you learned from the pretest and the post-test. Again, it's up there if you need to go back and review it. But if you're fairly confident about, what you learned from the slideshow, you may not need to go back and look at this. You don't have to take the pretest or the post-test again, especially if you already took it and get your extra credit. The other thing is this guided library orientation. This is about 14 minutes, and it deals with library orientation here at the college.
Hi, everyone.
With our head librarian, Miss Caroline here. And she will, talk you through how to check out books, how to find journal articles with the databases, using Galileo, that type stuff. So if you haven't watched this video, I definitely would take some time to watch it because it will help you, especially if you don't know how to check out books or find journal articles, that type stuff. The other two sources, the two websites, you could have basically found that. You should have probably found those first because everybody has or should have access to, Google, internet to find these sources. You just want to make sure that you're using like a .edu, a .com, a .gov, a .org. Those are usually more reputable than a .com site. That's not to say you can't use .coms, but you have to be careful about where you're getting that information. Again, if you're unsure if the two websites that you got are academic enough, you can always ask, the closest librarian to you, whether that's at the public library, college library, or high school library, or you can always email me the website and I can take a look at it as well. The other thing is, as we go along with this, because the actual annotated bib, the full project, is not due technically until April 19th. Now, the Dropbox is open. You can definitely turn it in before April 19th. And I would probably recommend that you probably do turn it in before April 19th, just because on April 26th, the final draft of your research paper is going to be due. So if we look at sort of the dates here, April 19th is on a Sunday. The 26th is the following Sunday when your research paper, the final draft, is going to do. And we will try to do a peer review for the rough draft of your research paper. But as you can tell, that's due on the 22nd, which is a Wednesday in April. So, I mean, being that we're getting down to the nitty gritty, especially after spring break. Remember, spring break starts April 6th, and that will last basically all the way through Sunday, April 12th. We come back on April 13th, and we basically only have the rest of April, which was about 3 weeks there, and a couple of days in May, and that's it. So, roughly 3.5 weeks after spring break that we have to get all remaining assignments finalized and submitted. And that's it, right? So that's why I wouldn't necessarily wait. I mean, you have that time if you need it, obviously. But if you feel like you're confident and you're caught up with a good bit of this, I would try to turn some of this stuff in a little earlier if possible. That way it'll give you enough time to work on a rough draft and enough time to work on finalizing the research paper. And you won't sort of feel rushed, having to turn something in within 6 days of each other. Again, the annotated bib is not the research paper, it's the sources you plan on using in the research paper. But when you look at the actual model A example that I gave you, it looks fairly extensive, and it is because you're dealing with 6 sources that you're going to have to take the time and read and analyze and take notes on, so you know what you're using and what you need to be able to use in your research paper. So I'm saying what you could start sending me drafts of your annotated bib pretty much at any point. I would probably suggest that you at least send me a draft of your first 2 or first 3 annotated bib sources. That way, if you know how to do the first 2 to 3, you're sort of doing the same pattern with the last 3. And once you figure out what that template looks like, what that pattern format needs to be, it's generally just making sure that your citations come first and the citations are in the proper MLA9 format, and then your paragraph comes after the citations, and you're doing spell check and grammar check and that type stuff. You're still setting it up like an MLA essay, right? You're still going to have your header, you're still going to have a title, you're still going to have your last name and page numbers in the top right-hand corner of every page. So if you look at the actual assignment sheet, which is right here, this is going to basically tell you what you need to do. So it says, after choosing your research paper topic and submitting your proposal, which most of y'all have already done that, gather 6 scholarly sources that will support your thesis and significant points. Your sources must include, and again, 2 scholarly journal articles, 2 scholarly books, and 2 scholarly websites. Use an MLA9 works cited generator to create the correct MLA citation for each source. Place the citation above each annotated paragraph. And I'm going to show you how you can use a website generator to get your MLA 9 in order. So, like I said, you're really going to have 2 grades, sort of. I mean, it's going to be out of 200 points. The citation is each, 6 at 6 is each works 16.67 points apiece, and that also is for the annotated paragraphs. So it's out of 100 for the citations, and then it's out of 100 for the annotated paragraphs. So it says annotation should be descriptive and critical, explaining what the source contains, how reliable it is, and how it will help your research. Format your document like a research paper, MLA 9, 1-inch margins, double space, alphabetical order, hanging indents. That's, I mean, yes, and I will tell you, I will explain that here momentarily. So these are the questions you're going to answer for each one of your 6 sources. This is how you're going to get your paragraphs, your annotated paragraphs for these sources. So the first one is, what is the source about? What did you learn from it? So obviously you're going to have to read a good bit of your source, or at least skim pretty well to be able to answer these questions. You can't just sort of BS your way through it, because it's going to be your topic and your sources. You're going to have to take the time to read through them and, collect them. Go to the library to get them if you need to. Number 2, can you trust the source? Consider the author, publisher, credibility, and bias. And then our last question, how will you use a source in your research paper? So again, you want to make sure that you're proofreading your paragraphs for clarity, grammar, MLA 9 accuracy, spell check. So this is that model that I was going to show you. Notice here, there is the page number. We definitely would need to have Smith. So it should say, like, in this case, it would be Smith 1 if this was the first page. Your header needs to be double spaced. And of course, it'd be your name, first and last, my name, because I'm your instructor. The course number that you're taking, which most of you are in English 1101, so it'll be this one. And then I would go with the date that the final draft is due. You want to give yourself a title. So I would probably just call it this. You can kind of use this same title here. Where it's going to vary is going to be the 6 sources because obviously everybody's probably having a different topic. Even if you are chose the same topic, you're probably going to have different sources. So again, the first part is the citation. As you can tell, this is the citation. For each one of these, the citation comes first before the paragraph. And these are the 6 scholarly sources for this particular student in the previous class. So citations come first. Notice you need to put the citations in order by alphabetically by the author's last name. So make sure that you know your ABCs, right? Last name first. So they go in alphabetical order by the last name. And then your paragraphs, of course, you're going to indent them, probably going to be about this length. They're usually, 5 to 8 sentences or anywhere between 100 to 300 words each. And to be able to get the information to fill these paragraphs, you answer these questions per source. So again, you probably need about 1 or 2 sentences to answer number 1, 1 or 2 sentences to answer number 2, 1 or 2 sentences to answer number 3. And if you go in order, your answer to question 1 will sort of be the first 2 sentences of this paragraph. The answer to question 2 would be the next 2 sentences of this paragraph. The answer to question 3 would be the final 2 sentences or so of each paragraph. And you would do that, for each source. So again, you're going to have to read your sources to be able to answer those questions. Now, if you go to, Google or whatever web browser you like, I usually type in MLA 9 works cited generator. And of course, you can kind of explore any one of these are, good to use. I usually go with MyBib. It's the first one. That's the one I've been using over the last few years to show students how to do this. The problem is here now, if you look, you want to select the correct style. So it's in MLA 8, which is an old version. You need to go to 9. So you need to just click on there. And then you need to, if you're doing a website, you need to keep it on a website. If you're doing a book, it tells you what you need to do. Type in the book title, ISBN. If you're doing a journal, again, it tells you type in the journal article title or the DOI number. If you're doing a video, you can go that way. If you're still looking for additional, let's say that you are subbing, let's say you can't find 2 books, but you found one speech and did one interview. So you'd have to click there to figure out what you need to do to sort of set it up in MLA. So let's say that we do the website, right? And I'm just going to randomly get a website. I'm going to go to a news article, let's say from the Jacksonville News somewhere. And I want to show you how you can just copy and paste the website into this particular box, and it will give you the citation you would need. So I'm doing the article, stepfather accused of shooting and killing 2-year-old as mother held him, Jacksonville police report. So I went to the Action News Jax website, and let's say I'm doing my research paper topic is on crime in Jacksonville, dealing with, maybe a parent and a child. So at this point, I have my website. I copied and paste where I got the article from, and I'm going to hit search, and it should pull it right up. Here it is. That's the article. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And as you can tell, it gives me the citation I need. And I would just sort of copy and paste that back into a Microsoft Word file. And that could, basically be, let's say it's my first citation here, right? And then I would go read the article and based on my answers, get those sentences from those, that I answered those questions with. And I will create my paragraphs for that. So that's how my bib would help you. It also shows you how you could do it in text, being that this is a website. We don't have page numbers on websites, so you wouldn't need to use page numbers. Now, if you use books or journal articles, generally they're going to be page numbers. So once we get into that part where you're actually drafting and finalizing the paper using quotations and that type of stuff from these 6 sources, you're going to have to include the page numbers if they provide them for you. But really, that's the annotated bib. Um, and you can go through this example, this model. Again, this person made a 90 or higher on it a couple classes ago. So this is a really good example to use, to follow. And as I say, if you get 1 or 2 of them kind of completed and you want to email me, your Word attachment so I can look at them to make sure you're going in the right direction, you're doing it correctly, you're feel free to do that because you really want to have a higher grade if possible heading into really the last 3.5 weeks of the course, because we've already did all the extra credit that we're going to do. Some of you still need to tell me which quiz or which peer review you want me to drop. I can only drop one, either one peer review or one quiz. I can't, drop more than one, so it has to be one or the other. But if you have a preference, you need to email me and let me know which one you want me to drop. Otherwise, as it gets closer to the end of April, I'm just going to go in and see where your low grade is at in the quiz or in the peer review and just pick one for you. I can't drop a major essay, that's where the big bulk of your grade comes from, but I can drop either a low quiz grade or a low peer review. So if you have something in mind that you want me to go ahead and do, again, please email. Otherwise, you need to check your announcements and your email for those 3 extra credit opportunities that I offered. I think most of y'all have already completed all 3. There might be a few that haven't. And as you are completing them, I'm going ahead and applying those points to those particular essays. So for a lot of folks, they should have seen a good increase in the grade because I'm giving you nearly 20 extra credit points spread out, right? So kind of keep that in mind. There will be a window, there will be a time that I'm not going to be able to, just because I'm going to have a lot of other grades coming in from the other 5 classes that I'm teaching, that the extra credit window is going to close, because we started talking about extra credit about the 1st or 2nd week of March, I believe. So y'all have had time to go through it. And a lot of it doesn't take you that long. You just have to go through the motions and read the instructions and do what you need to do. But for the most part, it shouldn't take you maybe 10, 15 minutes to complete all 3 of them, honestly. All right. So that's the annotated bib in a nutshell. Remember, we go on spring break here in another week or so. This assignment, again, is not due until the 19th of April, but there again, if it was me, I'd want to have enough time to work on drafting and finalizing my research paper. So I'd probably try to turn it in maybe before the 19th. Maybe sometime that week when we come back from spring break, because the 19th is basically that week that we do come back. It's just on a Sunday. I would, if it was me, I would probably try to submit the final draft for my annotated bid maybe on April 15th. That way you will have nearly almost 2 weeks to do the final draft of the research paper. Again, email me your drafts if you want me to look at the first 2 annotated citations and your paragraphs. I don't mind doing that. I probably won't have another video or another lecture video until after spring break. So it'll be the week of the 13th where we start talking about drafting, finalizing the research paper, the final quiz, and basically sort of the last few weeks of the semester at that point. So I hope everybody has a good rest of your week, a good week next week. Be safe and enjoy spring break if you're planning on going anywhere. Generally, what I try to tell my students, if you don't want to have a lot to do, for me, over spring break, I would get everything sort of wrapped up, what you kind of can do and need to do before April 6th. That way, when we come back on the 13th, you won't feel like you're overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, especially if you're taking multiple classes, right? Because, I mean, when we come back, you got 3.5 weeks to finish those classes up as well. The other thing is, if you haven't signed up for summer classes and you plan on going to summer semester, you might want to get with your advisor maybe before going on spring break, so you're not on a waiting list, or there's other issues going on, to go ahead and just knock registration out, sign up for those particular classes. If you are planning on taking the summer off, I would keep in mind that around the middle of June, they start putting up the fall semester. So if you're planning on coming back in the fall, then I would probably get in touch with your advisor before the 4th of July week, because that's usually when we have our summer break, which is like the spring break, but it's just in the summer. We have about a week off for that. But the same deal, so you're not on a waiting list, or you get shut out and you can't register, or you don't have all the paperwork if you have Pell and Hope and all that stuff. So make sure that you get in touch with your advisor either for the summer semester or the fall coming up, and just keep up and updated with your paperwork, stuff that you need to turn in. If you're still getting financial aid, Pell Grant, Hope Grant, that type stuff. All right. I hope everybody has a good rest of your Thursday, and I will talk to you probably after spring break.